I'm just not that brave. I'm gonna like maybe have to like draw pictures with my words.
Whiteboard.
I see a red marker. I think I got a black one down the bar. This is straight up. Okay. Yes. Go. Order that one down. No. Man, that's more money.
So we'll kick things off. If you haven't gotten food, there's sandwiches and stuff outside. Help yourself. Drinks and stuff as well. This is the August edition of Birmingham.net Meetup. Welcome everybody. Good to see everyone again. Really thankful to have Chris here talking about Claude AI and how it can be used with .NET development. So excited about that. A couple of announcements. The Dev Barbecue is coming up in September, the 19th, if I remember that correctly.
10th? 10th. Okay, the 10th.
The 10th, it's over at ITAT in Vestavia. Same place it's been for the last couple of years. It's always a great time to see a lot of other meetup groups, and they always have a good crowd and good barbecue. So definitely come out and join us. I am likely going to reschedule or potentially cancel the September.net meetup. I have a conflict that night, and so if I can find another day to do it, I will, but so just keep an eye out for that. Microsoft is having their Cloud and AI Bootcamp this week. It's a virtual event. It actually started today. They'll have a recording that you can go and watch later, but then they have day 2 tomorrow, which is more centered on development aspects of AI with the Microsoft Cloud. So you can still go out there and get on that. And then Ignite is coming up. I think it may be October, November, and then the .NET Conf is in November as well. So I thought they're looking for speakers. So if anybody wants to go to speak for a virtual conference for .NET, I think they're looking for speakers as well. But I think that's it. Do we get it working?
We'll see.
Maybe.
Fingers crossed. Do the best.
Hey, look at that.
It is at least if you're installing some stuff, which is promising. So let me get this the final step, and then I will be ready to.
Cool.
If you're going to do the dev barbecue, you need to go ahead and RSVP.
Yes.
They're not kidding. They're not gonna.
The place is always packed.
The place is packed, and you cannot be let in.
Yeah, probably fire code.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine something like that. They don't not want you. But there is a link in, I think, Magic City Tech Slack, and if you can't get to that, there's one in Base's Discord. And
I'll throw the link in this meetup.
You have the
messages as well.
Particle link or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That.
Yep. So and then we are live streaming on YouTube as well. We'll try that for a couple meetups, see how that goes. But if no one shows up, I'm just going to cancel the meetup. So I've always held off live streaming. I know it would be helpful for those that can't make it sometimes. But I always like having folks here in person. So we'll try it, see how it goes, and go from there. Any questions? Everybody good? All right, the floor is yours, Rick. Thank you.
I'll make it go regardless. And my goal, and I lots of interest around this, my goal is I've got some slides, I've got some steps we can go through, but for the most part, I want this to be a conversation. Y'all, who in here have actually used Claude Code for, so we got a handful of Claude Code. What about GPT-5 to write code, the codex. It's up there. Anyone else, any other things, I'm assuming a lot in cursor, but more codex, open code, any other kinds of agents,
Copilot.
Copilot.
Yeah, I haven't had a reason not to leave them yet.
Okay. So, yeah, let's be a conversation. Y'all have experience. I want to share, kind of let it be more of that conversation part. So I've got some tips and tricks, things that I've learned as I've been writing code. I've got some demo I want to do, maybe. We'll see how it goes. It's a whole live fire. I'm going to create a .NET API that y'all are going to tell me what to build. I'm going to try to integrate it with a Taser.js and Angular front end. It might work, it might not. So we'll have fun along the way with that. I think the main thing, my main goal is, first of all, why the CLI? That's a weird place to do programming, but why are we actually using the CLI? Why is that? You read a lot of the people kind of prognosticating that the IDE is dying and being replaced with man tools. Why might that be a thing? Let's talk about that. Talk about Linux and Windows. How many people in here have ever used Linux more than a little bit? So lots of people, lots of experience, good. I'm a fan of it. You can use Cloud Code in Windows. I have yet to install in Windows because it's just like the environment I have set up. It's got my tools, it works the way I want it to, and that's what I do. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Configuring WSL, so I might go very quickly through that. I'll talk about some of the other tools that I use, Tmux, Tmuxinator, and some other programs like that. Anyone here use Tmux? One person. Love it. It is absolutely like game changer just to be able to start a complex multi-server system. Rhythmic has 5 different servers doing different things that I need to spin up at one time, and I can do it all in one nice window and jump back and forth. It's just a great way to we'll talk about that. We'll scaffold the project, but all it's going to be through some tips that I've learned. And I started trying to list all the tips and things, like what are the small things that I do, and every single like YouTube personality and talker, everyone has their own approach, and some of it might be like, I feel, there was a Luke showed me a video that this person did that she was making fun of what people think prompt engineers do versus what they actually do. And people think, we're using all these fancy Markov analyses and whatever the thing is. But really, it's like sometimes I feel like I put an exclamation point behind it, it works better. Or sometimes if I threaten to kill its maker or whatever, it works better. But it's a lot of gut that changes, and people have very different styles. So share what's working for you and figure that out. Why the CLIs? I think that's kind of the first key point. Part of it is the speed. It's nice to be able to be working and kind of in a window that's got everything up that I need in a way that is just focused on getting the job done. I write in the CLI, and then I'll open up VS Code next to it. And my VS Code is as much code review as anything. It's making sure it's going to fix the crap that Cloud Code wrote. It's good at kind of visualizing getting things done, but most of my code now is directing the agent what to go do. So it's a little bit less context switching for me. Very scriptable. So having these tools like Cloud Code as a CLI, Codex, and a bunch of others, you can add them into your DevOps process, your pipeline. Just the configurability and programmability is way more and way easier to do tying into scripts. I do scripts on bringing in new like architectural reviews that'll go through the first few steps and scaffolds and things, tying it into help desk, and Azure has some demos of them using their site reliability engineering, kind of tying in the first from observing and acknowledging or seeing an issue all the way to first check in of code fix. You can do those pipelines. And you're also out of the vendor lock. And that's important, when we're using a system. A couple weeks ago, MCP wasn't a thing. It came out and it changed the game. So now I'm using, I'll have both Codex and Claude Code open right side by side and then going back and forth between the two because I found which models work well. For getting out of the vendor lock, to use different tools is important. All the tooling that's existed, especially open source, is amazing. I love it. Any other things I might have messed in there? Any reasons that you use the CLI or anyone disagree with the CLI? I think I easily way to go.
I don't disagree with it. It's, I think that's so it's been my, before I tried Claude, I was like, oh, it's the best, it's the best. Right, it is very good, but to me, I've not loved. That's a negative to me.
Okay. Totally fair. Anyone else feel differently about it?
It's
Good.
I still like using Visual Studio, like especially for debugging and like code navigation. And part of what I've been trying to do is figure out how to manage that handle like between the two, because like I can start out whatever I'm doing in Spire and like do some debugging and test some stuff, and I go back and out to Claude Code to do some things, and Claude Code does it, like Visual Studio is running lots good about that. So it is a bit awkward there. But I still think like it's worth it to do that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, it's weird that Microsoft has not been as aggressive on changes to Visual Studio. I don't know what their plans are there. Now they're not even I don't know why Copilot's not a CLI. You can hack it and kind of get it to the CLI, but it's weird decisions being made there. Luke has done some really cool things, so that the MCP server connect and pull all that in is.
I've started trying to write some automations actually. PowerShell scripts like automate starting and stopping Visual Studio and like getting debug output, because that's getting the logs and observability is like what makes the tools. You see a lot of tools take, and it's harder to get access to all that context. You need to walk through inside of IE.
Right.
Do they walk on top of each other? Is that the problem you've got? Like you've got an unsafe buffer, basically, kind of an unsafe buffer problem?
Yeah. So I mean, I'll start it up and I'll say, oh, Claude, there's like here, like go fix, this thing on this page, and it goes and does it. Like Visual Studio is not aware of that, or changes like project file, something that needs this reload. But yeah, it's not aware of that at all. So.
If you are doing node work at all, you have node modules installed in Windows and in Linux, you gotta be really, really careful because that will blow up in your face and cause all sorts of problems. One of the things I do in the setup I'm about to show you is actually force WSL not to load any of the Windows path, and I just get too on and like the path code if I need that, but take out all the node stuff because that caused me an embarrassing amount of time, and I'm struggling with what the hell is not working. You don't know stuff. All right, WSL is great. It's a tool that Microsoft is going big on. Let's actually just get in. So, everyone know? I'm assuming everyone has at least an idea of how to install WSL. One of the nice things I like to do is install multiple distros. So I'll have, if I'm working on Scout Studio thing or a Rivet project, I'll have multiple distros set up so it can be configured exactly how I want it. And then also, often we'll add containers, code containers, and being able to spin up even smaller environments depending on what I'm doing, just because I find it's easier to deal and get away from some of those node and VML environments. Like most of what I do is going to be, I don't do a lot of .NET programming anymore, even on that .NET Meetup. Most of what I've done is Node and it's JavaScript. Lots of that TypeScript.
Have you found that containers don't do what you need done under those circumstances if you're using VS Code?
Say it again.
Have you found that dev containers don't supply what you want out of that if you're using VS Code?
Yeah, I end up using code spaces a lot and yeah, it doesn't do everything I want it does, kind of bog down a little bit, but, which means all that much jump to. Having the different distros though, that's just another machine and run, that is at least parts of it I do, so get away from that. Then when I need to like come to go work at an office, to my home office and the work office, and I don't have a laptop, I use desktop too, and so it's nice to be able to go to my workspace and not spend all the time and just getting my environment working again, because I might go a week between and a lot changes in a week with the code base, and that's I don't know if I have to answer your question.
You did okay.
Yeah.
For all the things that I would think WSL does most of the good for, I don't run Windows anymore, but I mean, for the things that I feel like that my people who are Windows addicts do,
Right.
they have WSL is a real big deal for them.
Right.
And until I build dev containers for them, and then they're like, what the hell was I doing before?
Right, yeah.
And so I'm just curious if the things you're doing with WSL with regard to Claude need to be at the host OS level, or are you having the same kind of collisions that Luke's having, where it's talking about? I mean, everybody has the collisions that Luke's having if they're doing what Luke's doing. Can't get away from it. But I'm just curious. I'm just curious as to whether or not because dev containers are stupidly hard to get right.
Right.
They're stupidly hard to get right.
What do you want?
I mean, just one of the things that I think I have found with open Claude code would be a little bit harder to get with dev containers. If I'm working on a system that's like composed of like multiple repos.
Yep.
Claude code is really good, and I can create like a Claude MD for every repo, and then create a Claude MD for the root full where I put all the repos, and it can look at all of those and work across all of them. And if they were each, repos that have their own dev container, that'll be like a little bit harder to do.
The compose hard. It's really hard to make it happen.
So,
Right. I don't know. I'm not sure if there's a world where, I'm not sure that there's a one size fits all for all those things. If you have that situation, I can't imagine spending really real time trying to make a dev container work, for instance. This is dumb.
Yeah, so I like being very intentional about what systems am I using Alpine, am I using Ubuntu 24, getting that environment exactly the way I want it, I get consistency. That is helpful. One of the things we're actually doing is building out those, and specifically these containers is a company that has developers in Lebanon and here in the United States, and so trying to get control over all those environments, dev containers is a great solution over the top of WSL. My default, I get it working in WSL, I get it set up the way I want it, and then I can use that as the script that I go into. It's like having this the core terminal, which you can do with that containers, but
It's stupidly hard though. Everything about it makes you commit.
Yeah.
And getting things like your GPG keys mounted properly, and those kinds of things are super challenging.
well, as a solution for some of that, what I've done is I'm getting this will be available publicly. I cannot get it published before I came here today. A consistent installer that installs everything, all the tools exactly the way I want it, so I can go in either if I need to set up an environment, I can do that quickly, or if I'm working with other developers, enforcing some standards is really, really important. That spending time, you got to do a lot of not vibe before you start to vibe. The more time you spend thinking through your engineering, thinking through your setup, thinking through how tools you're going to use, all of that stuff, you're going to have better outcomes and results. So that's my first tip. Spend time getting everything right on one instance and then duplicate it elsewhere. WSL makes that really, really easy by allowing you to set up different distros. I'm gonna go into, this is actually in the process of installing, just kind of walking you through. The first thing I did is get it on the right screen. So the first thing I do to get an environment set up is just, again, set up. Yeah, there we go. It's install WCell and create a distro for what I want to do. You can do that by from PowerShell WCell install, the name of the image you want to use, the name that you're going to call your distribution, and then the location. So that gives you a named instance that you can work with. So I've got one here for scenario. Might change my colors. Try it on a light background. All right. Let's get the Docker for now. Here we go. It's off and spinning. So first thing I do is get WCL installed, and then I run this installer that I will share with the group. And this is going to install some things like OMZ, Z shell, OMZ on top of that. A whole bunch of tools I use. Dot environment, Rust, a bunch of things. You'll see tmux and tmuxinator being some of the most important to me because they become a key part of my whole dev process. I want to be able to start all of my servers with a single command, pmp start, and it spins up my entire dev environment with all of my AI, my servers running in debug mode, notes that I need to do, all of the things can be one command, and then I can very easily see everything that's going. The nice thing I'm using tmux inside the setup is you could very easily tell Claude to capture the stuff that's showing up on the tmux screen and then use that information so you're not doing as much copying and pasting in there. So there's some scripts where you tell output all the stuff within a pane to log, and you can pull that log real time. So let's let this install, and while that's going, let me come back to some of the other things. So again, spend time up front. You cannot, I don't think you can spend enough time really going through, thinking through how you're going to instruct, how you're going to do prompt engineering, your context engineering, your environment setups, the tools you want to give it. The more time you spend, the more likely you are to get good stuff. The problem with all of kind of the modern tools is the coding tool, the frontier models, Claude and 55 and the two main ones, is they'll create lots of code really, really fast. And it will look like a professional developer did it. The problem is, it's kind of like that early developer that's learned a couple frameworks and they think they're really good, and then they go try to abstract something and they create this nightmare beast system to go manage. That's exactly what it's like. You're dealing with an obstinate early career person that is a little bit of a savant, does not like telling you the truth, and you just need to treat them like that. So think through how would you manage that person if they were a human. I'm going to break it down and be very clear and give very small scope of things to do because you don't trust them to delegate large work. Lots of time to validate what's going on, and that's exactly what you need to do. So one of the first rules, don't ever let AI scaffold your project. Always start with the foundation. So go through, put the best practices, simple things like Claude code, no matter how many times I tell it to install the most current node modules, it will always go like 3 versions back. But then it'll write its code examples and the code that it'll do it right on it, which all of a sudden stuff's not working. And they install the wrong damn system. You gotta get ahead of that. So don't let AI scaffold your project. Create a good template. If you're doing the same kind of work over and over, have your base project that you clone, fork, use a code generator, whatever the tool is, do that first. Just like you would never let that early stage developer get a hold and do all of your architecture and all of the setup, you just work for them. you're gonna do the same thing with us. So, we have standards. The other thing nice thing about that is inside those template repositories, I can put all of my, best practices for subagents and Claude MD files and agent MD, if you want to use both, so they're both in there. We'll talk about what those are in a little bit if you're not familiar. So it's basically setting everything up to accelerate both your process, and then if you have a team, you want to make sure your team has the tools in place that they're accelerating. That's kind of the two things, two bold purpose. You're creating an agent that's going to work for you, but you're also creating an agent that people on your team are going to be working together. And then you might start checking in code to the same code base. And we did a Vivathon last week, and it was at a team. One team was very intentional of a small scope and be very intentional about the work they checked in. Another like waited, they did big things and tried to merge at the end. With merge disasters, I'll let close the end with presentation time. So don't scaffold, have your thing in place. Let's see where our code is, and I'm going to actually clone that. Great, looks like it has installed. So let me change my color code to make it easier for everyone. Make it a little easier, and then we're going to so I'm going to go to PowerShell. Come on, PowerShell, use the right house. All right, so going into WCL, I'm going to do the list. So these are the distros that I have installed on my laptop. There's the VHM. These are free, and I'm going to load into the VHM distro and log into that. All right, great. Here we are. Fingers crossed, everything actually installed right. But this is the issue that I have on the laptop. So. All right, so I'm going to shut down, get a new instance, and then go back into this. Make sure all the magic that was installed earlier is actually on there. Looks like some of it is, but it's not.
The one of the annoying things I run into with WSL, especially on laptop, hibernates or goes to sleep a lot of times. If you've got like a VS Code and everything, lose whatever server like connects it to WSL, and it'll have to like manually shut down WSL and start up again.
So I'm going to go in. So one of the things you want to do when you're working inside the CLI, you're going through in code in AI development. I'm going to do. Typically, I'm working on 3 or 4 branches at the same time. Multiple agents doing different things. So one of the things I want to do is make sure I know where I am. I know like what I'm actually working on right now. So
I'm sorry, you said you're working on 3 or 4 branches at the same time. I assume that is not 3 or 4 branches of the same code base.
Well, often will be, because I'll use work trees, and I'll talk about.
Okay, so you just, but you're not at that point. If you're using work trees, it's really not the same code base, right? You got a whole set of other stuff.
Okay, I will work within the same repo.
Right,
But
okay.
we'll use work trees, get work trees to spin off multiple, things, so that way I can have my agents work on one thing at a time, and then merge that back in to the base. That was a lot easier before Anthropic lobotomized Claude code. So a couple months ago, before people were like really like it was really huge, like you could get in and I'd have like 5 Claude code instances running at the same time, doing different work, checking. And my job was just to go look every time I'd get a ding from one of the agents, I'd go push it along a little bit better, give it feedback, and go to the next. So what I realized is you need to know where you are, because you can get real quick, you can get lost in the code base. So one of the ways that I did that is through, and there's a handful. This is actually probably did not finish. But anyway, I'm not going to fight it at this point, but One of the things I want to do is install a tool like, fix this. All right, so I install a tool like Star Prompt. Starship, Online Z Shell has, so this one's using the Starship prompt engine. So create a custom prompt on top of it that will show you where you are and what branch you're in. So if I go into the rhythmic branch, it will actually tell me where I am. I can always look within the prompt and know what Git branch I'm in. So there's a handful of tools that do that. Online V Shell has the one I'm mainly using now. It's called Power Level 10K. So I get this nice fancy looking prompt that I always know where I am. One tip there, this is Starship, so this is an earlier version because I have not updated my laptop because it has issues like I couldn't get going at the beginning. So this. Now I'm going to clone our working directory, our actual demo repo. All right, so let's check this out. And then I'm going to do an npm install and I'll show where I've got some other tools that should start. Everything works right. So got it cloned. You also notice I'm typing Z. Has anyone used Z Oxide? All right, so Z Oxide's nice. It's another one of these tools. If you're in the CLI a lot and you're navigating through a lot of different directories, you'll often get these very, very deep directory structures. They can be very difficult, and you have to remember and type. So Z Oxide will actually, as you start going to things, I can go back to my root. So here I am just in my root home directory. But if you go right back to where I was, like Z, or just type some part of it, now I'm right back in that root directory. So it allows you to jump around your directory tree very quick. That's Z Oxide, an easy thing to look up and install. One of those tools that will really help. Back in the Bible I've checked it out. Now I'm going to do the install, and we'll see the next thing I want to talk about. So getting your post install set up. Like I said, I'm doing a lot of work to get to the point of vibe coding. This is the things that I've done that help me go through a lot more code a lot quicker. So it's a little bit, feels tedious, but again, you do a lot of work up front before you can get into the cloud code. Otherwise, you'll get the kinds of things where you just, the issues that we expect to see and problems in it. So I've got install, so let's see. This one. All right, here we are. Good. Everything installed. I am in tmuxinator now. Color's a little rough, but I'm going to zoom in. So what you're seeing here is a multi-terminal window inside your terminal. I have the servers that are running. I have my AI window, which in this case I'm running cloud code. I have stats. We'll talk about CC usage in a little bit, so I can know exactly like how much time, where I am in my usage window with cloud code, which is really nice. You'll find out why in a little bit. And then I have a base terminal. I can do whatever I need to in there. So this is the first thing I bring up when I need to work on anything. And then I go into my terminal and I bring up VS Code. And then these are the two tools I'm going to use to do most of my work. I'll have more screens open, so I'll have my windows open. I'll have my console view from my DevTools open, and then I'm just going back and forth doing a lot of copying and pasting. We'll let VS Code open, and let's go back to the PowerPoint. So Don't let AI scaffold your project, do some work up front to get your environment configured. And then be intentional about rules. One of the issues that, prompt engineering might not be as big a name thing now, but I think it's more important for us when we're doing vibe coding that we get all of our rules in place. Now, those that have used it, how much work have y'all done on your Claude MD files?
So much.
So much?
Have you looked at beast mode yet?
Beast mode, so is that one of the ones like,
It was one of those, like, I looked at it and I was like, this is ridiculous.
yeah,
It totally works. It's a giant set of sort of pre-posted
right,
statements. I mean, like, it's just a big
yeah,
precursor file. But before, I don't use it now because it is extensive. But I didn't at all, and that sucked a lot. There's, I have a little bit of something to say about your don't scaffold. I think don't scaffold works better on some things than others.
sure. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, it works a lot better for Python projects than it does for anything else that I've seen. I didn't let it scaffold my things initially, and then I started letting it scaffold Python code, and I was like, oh, this is way better.
Yeah,
But then I'm also using make in the course of that, so it's
Right.
basically building a make file while it's doing all the installation of the stuff.
yeah,
My pre-prompt stuff,
mhm,
when I wasn't using that, you're just shooting dice.
right,
You mean, like, you have, now everything you say has to be a 3-paragraph request.
right,
But yeah, putting, I would say that as much time as you put into getting your environment ready, having consistent rule sets for kinds of projects definitely feeds into your into your story there as well.
absolutely. Who else has done a lot with their kind of Claude MD instructions? Or agents MD, agent MD if you're using Codex, or OpenCode.
Are they different? I've not used Codex, so.
So they're the same concept, they're just one uses agent.md and the other uses claude.md, and then some others use like Copilot instructions if you're in Copilot. Everyone has their opinion of what.
Can you symlink these things? I mean, is that basically reasonable?
Do what?
Is it reasonable to symlink these files?
You know, I've not tried that.
I haven't tried either. I like, you said all this and I'm like, I haven't tried that.
Usually what I do when I get into and using like a new, I'm gonna go into Claude Code, I'm gonna run init. I'm init, I get made fun of how I say that, but, so this will do, kind of create a new Claude MD. I don't need to do it for this particular one. When I go to the next one, I'll actually, instead of doing the /init command, I'll just tell it, go create an agents.md, read the Claude MD file, based on that, create a new agent.md. The other thing that's important, all of these files are hierarchical. So you start at your root with your user directory. So inside Claude Code, if I go to my root directory, so I'm in tilde, which is just home, so I'm right back at my root, I can go into my config folder, which is what has, it's not config, it's, all right, my .claude folder. If I put a Claude MD file here, which I will right now, that's actually going to apply to every single thing I do as a user. So at the very root, the Claude MD is where it starts. Now every directory under that till you get to the current working directory will build on each other. So the way you can think of it, start at the root, that's going to be the whatever rules, beast mode, and there's a handful of other sites that you can do. These are people have their best practice and ways they use it. I'm hopefully going to be able to get mine. Stores and So my Claude, and this will be a repository that's public, you can access it. This is the one that I have, and I spend a lot of time playing around with this, and it's changed so many times. So have your core at the very root, and then I work with company, I have a lot of different ones, so each customer that I work with, in their folder, I'll have a Claude MD that says what they need to know for that particular company. Like we use coding standards, this is the version of the systems we're doing at the organization level, and then when I get into the project, you get very specific. And you can even keep going further. So in different subfolders, you have a Claude MD file, and Claude is working on a file inside that. It will read that, stack everything up, so you can get very, very specific around your context, which is going to give you better outcomes every single time. Like I said, that's the number one way. If you want to get good output from coding agents, spend some time with your MD files. So here I do things like, kind of as you're a senior engineer, I like to tell it where I want it to put its working files in Scratchpad. If you don't, Claude loves to throw files all over the place. And you'll have 30 files that were like Scratchpad that they're just, it's a nightmare. And you have to clean it up and hope you don't delete the wrong one. Or it'll create lots of test scripts. That's one of the things, if it can't figure out how to do something, eventually it will write a test script and it'll start running that test script, but it's not going to go clean that up. So that becomes a problem. So I tell it, one of my first rules is use the .llms directory. In there, you should have a code-based research file where you're constantly updating. You're going to have to-do lists at a high level, and any other things that you need to work with are going to go in there. I'll often put that in my git ignore file because each agent, that's kind of Scratchpad stuff. I don't want it to be persistent. Other things, Claude code is so obnoxious about just honestly lying a lot, and then when you tell it it's done something wrong, it's like, oh, you're right. Like, oh, don't do that. That's just, don't be obnoxious. You ask a question, just answer the question, because if you ask a question, it also has a tendency to go off and like write a bunch of code. So I tell it, don't go do that. So things around safety and privacy, it's got multiple levels of this anyway, but just make sure, double check. I don't know if this is as needed as possible. This one that I keep in there for now because it's kind of been in there. How I want it to build the kind of workflow that I do. The other thing is I don't want it to just go straight into writing code, because that also has a tendency to do that. Unless you intentionally tell it and put it into plan mode, we'll see that in a little bit. It's often will just start writing code, and that's a real problem. So I tell it every single time, always follow research, plan, implement. So do the research, show me the plan, and I have to tell you to move forward before you actually implement the code. So I'm forcing it to go through this process. GPT-5 will do it every single time, consistent. Claude, even with these in there, tends to do its own thing. So could be a little annoying to that, but I don't have it in there. Parallelization and subagents. So one of the powerful things you can do in Claude Code that you can't do in others is it will actually parallelize your work. So let's say you're wanting to do an architectural code review of 100 files. It will actually read all those in and will do 5 files at a time. Spin them up in a different sub-process, run the assessment or whatever it needs to do, and then spit the outcome out at the end. And it will figure out when to do it. I want it to do that more often because it speeds things up and moves a little faster. And then I also sometimes want to use custom code agents. Again, one of the things we'll look at in a little bit. Yeah, some other things around all of these things. Any questions or things that you put in your Claude MD that you find helpful for what you do?
Don't lie.
Don't lie.
Don't lie.
Don't lie.
Like right at the top, don't lie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that doesn't get you anything. I don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the same way that you can tell a person not to lie.
Mm-hmm.
But I got better results after don't lie than I did before.
Okay.
You had a phrase up there that I'm going to crib. I can't remember what it was. Wait a minute. Are you there? No, up a little bit more. A little more. Crap, what is it? There was some, you had something up there that I totally did, that I think is important, that I don't do. And I don't remember, I can't remember what it was now, and I'll forget it, but I'll go find it out, repo.
This repo is available.
Performative narration, that's it.
Yeah.
I had the same.
Performative narration, that's exactly it, yeah, that is a, I've been trying to figure out how to get it to do that. Do your interaction rules work for you? For the most part?
It's better with it than without.
Better than without? Yeah.
And GPT-5 works better for those things than Claude Code. The other, I've got to figure out the right way to do it. Claude will hard code its way to success, or it will delete code to success. And so forcing a like not to do that, I've got to figure out the magic. I haven't figured that out. So I just do not trust it. I have to go look at it, and the amount of times it's like, you, stupid moron, I told you not to do this, but yeah.
Yeah, beast mode, when I utilized that giant prompt block that I did not touch and did not read deeply, by the way, so it maybe, get Bitcoin mining down there.
I mean, I've already spent a lot of different places and have been playing with it. Some of this is gonna be your personal, like how you want to interact with it. I've got, kind of, these are the, way down here, the, way I want it to respond to me, so that I have a consistent response that I know to look at, just helps me. These are things that you're gonna find that you might want it sucking up to you and saying you're always right.
Do you get good responses with regard to telling it to not do stuff and ask you first? Because it lies to me about that too.
Yeah,
They all lie to me about
I have to be on, paying attention and ready to press the escape key.
Gotcha.
That is your friend in Claude Code. So let's stop talking about it. I'm gonna go show some things, and actually, first I'm gonna do, let me make my default. This is default. Yeah. Now. Yeah. Great, I'm just gonna paste this in, it's there every single time, so I don't have to like reset Claude, it's just in there. And we'll pick up, the next time I go do a run. It's always interesting to go through and read these, see what's in these folders, we learn a lot, by looking at like what the settings follow, the things that are in there, but.
Looking at what?
Go through your .claude directory, and see what other files are in there, especially as you start adding settings and things. This is a blank install, so there's no settings in this right now, but I'm about to add some,
What are you doing right now? What are you looking at right now?
So specifically, I'm in my claude.md file that is in my root.claude directory. So I've gone to get there, I went in terminal, I went to my .claude directory, which is in your root home directory. So that's the tilde, in Linux, that's just your home. .claude is a setting, so any dot something is just gonna be hidden by default. That's all the dot means. In this case, this is my Claude settings folder in my root home. That is where your root Claude MD file lives. And then I go from my root, I have my dev folder that's gonna have all my dev projects, personal, so I've broken it down by my all right. Did that answer your question? And I'm jumping a lot and going to, well, so if I need to slow down or if you need to like, I'm losing you, please let me know.
So this is your Claude MD for all of your work that you do,
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah, so in that root folder, this is the one, and this will now apply to every time I open Claude Code, this rule set's gonna be there. So this is my first, and this is about how I want to interact with the system. When I start getting into, say, my actual project folder, So my actual project folder, which is here, and I'll just, this is where I'll go in and get like specifics for the project. And we'll check that in, and that way everyone that checks this out is gonna get the same set of, things to work on there.
I don't know if you had one of these rules in your root set, but there's a current little fight going on with people I know about whether or not the local file can tell Claude to not pay attention to the root file, to the cascading tree. Like if I say, if the local project says something that overrides something that is higher in the tree, there is some question about whether that statement will work inside a Claude markdown file. What do you have any like any data points to add to that?
No, typically my files are just designed to be kind of additive by how I work them, so I don't do a lot of, like, my interactions are the way I always want to interact with it.
Sure.
In there, so I just haven't had that need, but I can see it.
I feel like the people that I'm talking about are less particular in that space.
Yeah. And that is the other problem. You see a lot of people that are giving their opinions on this are not engineers by trade, and so they become engineers and they've done really good work. I'm not hating on it, but you get a lot of mixed results. All right, other questions before I get in and look at the next step, which is to actually start doing some stuff. So this project that I have running, it is an Angular project. This was something we did in our Vivathon, Angular with Phaser.js, which is a gaming engine, and you can't hear the noise right now, but it makes some really annoying creepy sounds and some annoying creepy music, and you can like throw random sprites on there, totally useless, but the whole Vivathon, they had to actually make this do something that was interesting, and it was kind of fun to see the results, at least fun for us to see the results of what happened. But what I want to do is begin to add some additional functionality. Anyone have any recommendation of what functionality I should add here? And how much time do I have?
Random cat pictures.
Yeah, okay, all right. So, my home directory and open up in the right directory. And I'm gonna go into YOLO mode. So one of well, you'll see, actually before I do YOLO mode, I'm going to do it regularly. You'll see how annoying it is and why you might want to consider skipping permissions or a minimum increasing the permissions that you allow. So here we are. All right. All right, I'm gonna kick it off. So I did nothing here, just straight up prompt like you might go do. This is not how I would necessarily recommend starting out. And we'll see what we get and see what we get before workable. I'm gonna go into our code, our VS Code that. All right. Here we are, and what I'm going to do now in code is just go into my change tracker and leave that out. So this is actually every time Claude makes change, I'm going to see it in the source control and changes. I'm going to go look and see what it actually did. That way, hopefully, between watching the process as it's moving, pressing escape, or going and looking at the files, I can head off any disasters that it does. The other thing I want to do is make sure I'm making small changes. If you try to get big files or big complex, like one-shot prompts to go do like whole parts of the system, you're gonna get disasters. One of the things I like to do is make really small changes and be very specific about how I want things to work. Like, I want you to create a repository, I told it where I want my repositories to live, and then I want you to create a control using this particular style or whatever. I'm going to be very specific, let it do that. Typically, I might even say, go create a Git work tree. So Git work trees are just working branches against your whatever branch, where it just creates a separate working branch, so you can do some work, merge it back in locally. I'll have to do that. Well, wait, it's not conflicting, things can live in their own separate directory, and you merge it back in locally before you check it in if you're doing multiple edges. Small things, make sure you're constantly querying, small changes. So here, this is the actual file. I can go look at the code, but this is not a great interface to look at the code, so I'm going to go and tell it, yeah, you can write it, and then I can go look at it in VS Code and see if it makes sense what needs to add to it. So this is a lot of my back and forth, what I'm letting it create. So any questions about this or any things that you've done that have better results? All right. We'll keep going and grinding away at more just letting it run. Does anyone else do another approach and kind of not stopping it?
My son says, it asks it not to ask you so many questions.
Yeah.
And there's a number of settings inside of Copilot that were up till recently experimental.
Right.
I think they're all GA now. That basically just turns off the prompt.
Right.
And I just didn't watch it until it starts to screw me over.
So in Claude Code, you press Shift Tab, and now I'm in an automatic accept. But it can answer.
Yeah, I mean, I usually just try it up front with the planning, like turn it to plan mode and review that. And like a lot of times there are corrections I need to make there. And it lists out closely and more detail with just those little check boxes. So, I redo that. If I think that's good, I'll usually just say yes, accept, and just write it off and go multitask on something else.
So looking through, kind of get that going. And let's go back to the PowerPoint. Well, that's still writing. So talk about being intentional. Talk about scaffolding and maybe some other approaches to it. Rules files, be intentional about how you design your rules. Finding the right tool. So out of the box, Claude Code doesn't actually know that much about Facebook. It's a popular enough engine, but it's not mainline kind of thing. So you can either spend a lot of time going and finding resources and copying and pasting, or you can install an MCP server. And the first one that I will always install is Context 7. This is you don't install anything else, and this is any of the tools that offer MCP servers. Last time I was here, last time I spoke, I talked about LLMs.txt and using MCP servers. Well, Context 7 is all of the LLMs text in the world, tens of thousands, 34,000 libraries available. Out of just about everything that you want. install it in the MCP server, now your code or Copilot or Codex have access to all of those code samples and things. For instance, if I'm looking at lang graph, these are just someone's rules and documents they put in there. This is my go-to automatic install and everything. I can go to the Context 7 website, go to their Git repository, and I'm going to scroll down and get the Claude code command to install it. I'm just going to install it using the local server. So I'm going to come over here.
This group in particular, a very analogous useful thing is Microsoft Learn and Microsoft Offsite also like first party MCP server. Well, the other documentation, yeah, probably Context 7.
So yeah, this would be another worth getting there, Microsoft Word MCP server. Install a couple of these. There's MCP servers for connecting to GitHub, for connecting to SQL, for connecting to insert whatever you want. There's just tons of different ones out there. Do just a little bit of research. The ones that you need are going to be the ones that you use for your stuff. So do research on what MCP servers make sense to you. And when you find those MCP servers, we're going to install them like this. And so I ran it, like my call JSON file. This is my root configuration file, so I can go open this. Scroll down here. It's kind of hard to see. You'll see that it will actually list so I can actually go here and install lots of different MCP servers, assign environment variables, whatever it needs for them. This is how Claude Code does it. It installs it either in the root.claude.json or in your project.claude folder in the settings.json file. So you can have MCP servers that are just for a particular repository that are checked in and everyone gets to use them. But finding that right mix and then adding those rules to your all.markdown file. I believe you need this like so I'm going to go in and edit my right here in my research step. I'm tell it to use context 7.
Is this back in your personal Claude?
Yeah, this is back in my personal Claude MD. If I'm in a particular directory, I might use context 7 to go look up this very specific documentation. I might be very specific in a there, but here I just wanted to do something in general. Go look.
The way we were doing our work, it was helpful to get it to be able to skip a step in context 7 where you could say, more or less like figure out which documentation set to use and then query it, but you just said, hey, you got a function about things or use exactly this ID. You can shortcut some of the figuring out that it has to do every so often.
So in this case, you actually do have to reset. So now we see that I've got context 7, and I can tell it to all right, so I'm going to just ask a question and let it go to the thing. You'll see here in a little bit, it's going to ask me, do I allow it to use context 7? And I can think, yeah, I want to, yes, I can see. This is gonna get annoying, so I'm actually gonna drop out before I do that. And to Claude, I'm gonna go into dangerously skip permissions or yellow mode. And I'm also gonna tell it to. Now it's opened up my chat history. So these are all the things and interactions I've had with it. That's the dash resume or slash resume inside the interface. And I'm just gonna tell it continue. Push it one more time. Now let's see what it comes up with. And I'm not gonna have to like answer yes every time. It's just gonna go do things. It's YOLO mode or dangerous skip permissions mode because let's say it decides to format your computer. It's gonna format your computer. It's gonna turn everything off. Or if it decides to go spend $1 million on PayPal if you connect it to PayPal, like it's gonna do whatever as if it were you. So be very careful on that. So here it's actually found some documentation, brought in 2,000 lines of documentation, and now it's actually reading through, and it has some question, a response for it. So what it assumes is the right thing. So it's very helpful. Ask questions, get feedback, include other documentation. A couple other MCP servers that are helpful, the .NET or the MS Learn. Memory is another one that I use a lot. So the Claude MD file is a memory file, and it will use that to remember things about the directory. But what it is not is it's not good at graph kinds of queries. Have in this file what other files connect to this. Like it just doesn't work very well for that. Memory actually adds a graph database underneath, so it will find a file and you can look up all the kinds of relational information about it. I like giving it access to these so it will learn on its own and will remember these things. Other questions? And again, what is the actual? I don't know what our end time is, so I want to make sure I don't go.
I'm another 15 minutes.
Okay.
Try not to go past 7:30 usually.
Okay. All right. Any questions about MCP servers? Tons of them out there. Just do a search for MCP servers for live coding. You're going to find tons, and it will be very much your personal preference. But they can really be very helpful, as are subagents. So Claude Code and then another is Open Code have a concept of subagents. And so what a subagent is specific prompts that do work, a specific prompt and a specific set of tools that work in a particular way. So it's a feature that can allow you to get very, very custom prompts that work within their own memory context, their own kind of working context, with their own set of tools and permissions. Can be very good at focusing your model, focusing your tools, do things such as code review, architectural assessments, writing, deep research, all sorts of different things you can use subagents for. So let me show you what a subagent file looks like. I'm going in back to my repository, and under the agents folder, I've got 3 here and I'll admit I did not write these. These are totally snatched from the internet. Hey, here they are. So at the very top, you've got some front matter. You give it the name, you give a description. You want to be very specific about when you would use this particular subagent, what category it might fall into, and then it's just a prompt. In this particular one, for a code review, here are the things that we want to potentially do. And then copy these agents into what 2 places do you think I'm going to copy these agents? There are 2 main places that I can copy them, based on what I've talked about so far. The blue. All right,
put in your local, the local sets Claude and D.
absolutely. So I can put it into my, make an agents folder here in my root. So I'm back in my root where I put my root on B. I can add, my code review file here. Paste that in. And that has just created an agent that is now available across any Claude instance that I open up. If I go into the local one, let me just see what file pictures are found. All right. We'll see what, we'll make this run in a little bit. But I can come into my .claude folder, add an agents subfolder into this inside the repo, and this will add one that is just at the repo level. So I'm going to do a deployment engineer.
So how do these relate to like other slash commands?
So good question. Slash commands you have to kick off, and they are, so slash commands you kick off by doing slash and then type in whatever you want to do, slash document this. And then you have the ability with a slash command to have parameters. So I can say document this file, and I can post the name of the file, and it will like go do documentation just there. Agents are prompts that Claude itself will spin off as it is. You can do it using slash agent, see a list of them. But what I would actually do is in my Claude MD file, explain the agents that it has access to and have it go run itself. So slash commands, Claude can't go do itself, but custom agents, it can spin up and run when it sees there's a need for a particular agent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it seemed like a weird division.
Yeah. So I'll add another just to. The other thing, honestly, just slash commands came first. I'm gonna do this is a slash command. You go drop out of Claude, go back into it. And we'll see these two things. So slash commands show up. So now that funny rhyme that I just did shows up as a slash command. And I can get off and run. Let's see what it does. See? And then we'll talk about the agents and see how they. So all right, here's my, I'm sure, totally cringe rap written by Code AI about a file in a project. Oh, it's so bad.
All day, oh, God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But that's just what I came up with. So agents work a little bit different. So here, these are different modes, and you see that I've got a couple different ones. One thing with slash commands, you cannot specify model. With agents, you can say, I want you to use a particular model, which is very helpful and something you want to get good at. You have a limited amount of usage windows. So Claude Anthropic bills you in 5-hour increments. You can make 50 of those a month. The moment you do a first command, so you make a first command at 8 in the morning, that is one, you get 5 hours taken away from your total up to 50. And then there's some unknown amount of tokens that you can use in there, inconsistent in there. One way you can manage that is by being very particular. Do you use Opus 4, which is the largest flagship model, which is really good at being creative, it's really good at kind of a big level plan generation. It kind of sucks at coding compared to Sonnet 4. It's slow, it's not as good a coder. Sonnet 4 is a good coder, but bad at the larger big picture things. So actually balancing the two is helpful. The other thing you want to do is what I have here in my spins up every single time under my stats tab is the actual CC usage, which is npx CC usage at lattice. So it's just an npx that you run, and this will show you your usage based on what's in your root directory.
Yeah, they do have a newer option in Claude where you do model selection, where you can tell it to always use Opus for planning and then Sonnet for actually doing the implementation. So it's an option built into Claude code now.
Yeah, so no mega prompts. All right. Yeah, so that's the kind of the plan and being very intentional about which model you use. So agents, you can pick a model. You can come in // agents and actually have Claude create a sort of project level generate Claude. All right, so it's a prompt. Now it's actually going to write its own system prompt. So AI is really good at it. So don't write your own system prompts. Go into ChatGPT, go into Anthropic, and have it write the prompts for you. It's going to be better at prompt engineering than you. Give it kind of the direction you want to go, the things you want to do, and let it do the GPT-5 Pro. I actually use GPT-5 Pro to write all of my Claude MD files, and it does. It's just really good at making them better. Here I'm going to tell it, so this actually needs the ability to write. It doesn't need the ability to execute, so I can take those away. It just needs to be able to edit, add some files, and run some MCPs. So I'll put that in there. I want this to use Opus because I need it to do the be as smart as possible. And there's my system prompt. And now I have that new agent. Now I can make changes into them, but here is where all right, use that code review agent, review what's outstanding. So now it's going to spin up that agent, brings in all the files to make changes to it. And here we'll actually go through our own pointers. And I'll just let it do its thing. So now we're seeing it's actually running the code reviewer. Now, that's a pretty boring approach to it. Let's say you want to, you got a lot of Git issues coming in. You can have a triage agent who looks at all of your issues coming in to your system, assesses the most important ones, groups them together, and then have that hand off to a discovery agent that figures out maybe it has access to your Sentry.io or whatever your monitoring tools are. It goes and looks for the information, finds out what the potential issue is, and then hands it off to another agent. So you can begin to create these multi-agent orchestrations through here, and you can't do that with slash commands. You might kick it off with a slash command. Your slash command might actually say, review these Git issues using the agents, and it'll use a particular flow and hand off work between them. So there's some really powerful things and work that you can do with your agents. So, answer your question, Luke, and are there others that came up from that? Has anyone here used sub-agents? It's not something that is available yet in Copilot. Codex doesn't let you do it, but you can get it with GPT-5 using OpenCode, which is another, OpenCode.ai is another command line agent and has a nice feature. You can do agents across model providers, so I can go with Anthropic and OpenAI and even like local hosted Obama or OSS, and then I can really get very focused on optimizing my spend across agents or even more skill set. Cool stuff.
How much are you spending a month these days?
Well, that's the trick. So, so I have a $200 Anthropic membership and a $200 OpenAI, and that's all I spend. I have $20 on Olama Turbo, so I can run open source models. So that's a lot. I mean, $400 is a lot, but I mean, this is a big part of my job and part of what you're done. And frankly, like I've significantly increased my ability to get work done during that time. So it's good return on investment. But part of this, like figuring out like using different agents or models or even going cross provider is about optimizing spend. What's the cheapest way to get it done? So just because you have Opus 4 or you have, you know, GPT-5 Pro doesn't mean you need to run all of your stuff in. You need to find the cheapest, fastest model to do the work that will get it done. Which means you spend a little more time context engineering, prompt engineering, that you get faster, cheaper results, which are scalable. And I think that is the current arms race. Not among like the hype vibe coders, there's a lot of hype out there, but serious engineers, it's around how do we put these things together and form them in a certain way to get the best results. The companies that figure out how to do that best are the ones that will outperform. And a lot of the real quality stuff is not being made public because a lot of companies are viewing it as their current community value prop and their like trade secrets that let them outperform. So, all right, got a few more minutes, couple more minutes, 4 more minutes. Any other questions? Anyone? Let's see if the go runs. I actually don't know if I did stop it, but let's see if it got enough. Hey. All right. You know what? I'm going to do one thing, just so you can see it. I'm going to /clear, resets my prompt, which is you want to always be on a fresh prompt window, and I'm going to say make dog pictures bigger.
Maybe a new context window when you're working on something that's.
So it actually worked. I did not create my .NET API. I plan to do that, but I tried to go through a lot. Trying to figure out the best practices and tips that have worked for me. It was a large list of things to pick from. So I hope I picked some that are actually helpful and maybe you have some things to learn and you go apply.
What kind of things have you seen in the scratch pad?
Oh my goodness, all sorts of just. I'll be surprised if it created any in this during this time. Yeah, I don't even know about LLMs directory in this, but in my main like Rhythmic project where I spend most of my time, it's a huge enterprise project. It does a lot, and it's such weird stuff sometimes that will like trains of thought where it was going down a path, and if it had finished it, it had been really cool from a coding standpoint, but it never actually implemented anything that it said it was going to do. It would just describe these great big monolithic, these great big fantastic architecture, all the fancy stuff underneath, and then like what it actually writes is nothing at all related to it. I mean, we've never written any documents like that in real life, I'm sure, but it does love creating test scripts, and so I'll get like 100 test scripts sometimes, where it's just going and created a JavaScript file and runs Node, runs it, and then uses those results to be. It's actually very helpful. And one thing I often encourage it to do is break those test scripts, get real, actual, fast feedback. And it's pretty good at figuring that out. Doing it itself. Other questions? If you are interested in the stuff that I have, the repo that I was working from today is in Chris's Agile, and it's bham.net. Rob, I guess Rob, I can send this to you, and you can email it out.
Yep.
To everyone. And I've got in there, go to the Claude folder, and I've got a couple agents that I've done. I've got my Claude ng file. And then when I get the go set everything up stuff, I'll share that as well. Other questions?
Awesome, great job, Chris. Cool, so just reminders real quick, we've got the Dev Barbecue, September 10th at ITAC. I went ahead and changed the event for next month to that. I may look to add another event if I can get a speaker and have another idea for a talk. .NET Conf is November the 11th, and then Microsoft Ignite is November the 18th, the next week. So some things going on in the community, so check those things out. If anybody is interested in giving a talk like Chris did today so wonderfully, just let me know. You can reach out to me on Meetup, or we can talk after the event. And I think that's it. Any other announcements or questions or anything? Awesome. Thanks for being here. Have a good night.
Thank you all.